Morning all. Welcome. First of all, before I forget, I always promise my wife to send a picture if I'm somewhere talking. So please smile. Get you all on screen. Yeah. Thanks. So that's covered. Well, like introduced, a bit of a tales from the ground story today. Deploying Cloud PCs at a Dutch airline. I promised my employee, or well, I'm self-employed, but my company to not name the airline in case, but I could use some photos of them, so well, you can guess what we're doing. This is me. My name is Ralph. I'm a Microsoft MVP, Microsoft MCT. I work mainly with Microsoft Cloud solutions, Azure, but mostly Modern Workplace. And I came across this company. This is my current gig as a self-employed cloud professional. It's Transavia, you guessed it by now. A Dutch low-cost carrier. We just turned 60, and we had a birthday party 2 weeks ago. The number 2 airline in the Netherlands, around, well, over 3,000 employees by now. Approximately 1,300 of those are actually flying. They're cockpit and cabin personnel. They're the ones you see in the airplane. And all the other ones are making sure that we can fly. So we have a few locations across the Netherlands, mainly Schiphol, that's our main location, that's where our main office is, that's where the main technical department resides, but we also have bases in Eindhoven, in Rotterdam, with some technical guys, but no real big maintenance plants there. We're expanding out into Brussels, so a few locations to service. And in 2024, some statistics, 166 routes across Europe, 113 destinations we're flying into, about 10 million passengers transported. And we fly about 50 aircrafts. Up until now, those were all Boeing 737s, and we're in the process of replacing those with the new Airbus 321, if I'm not mistaken. Mainly due to lower noise, improved customer satisfaction, although I hear some mixed results on that. But that's a multi-million-dollar operation, as you can imagine. So that puts some strains on what we can do budget-wise in the rest of the organization. Mainly what Transavia does is making sure that you can do this, and to make sure you can do this, we do this. And to make sure we do this, we do a lot of this. We have a lot of meetings going on, stuff going on in the background. And up until last year, that was mainly being run on an environment on Windows 10 PCs. Most employees have their own personal device, have their laptop managed with SCCM, on-prem Active Directory, and that only touches the office employees. All flying personnel, captains, first officers, cabin attendants, all use their iPads for their work. That's the only device they have, corporate scene. So they only use that iPad device to do whatever they do. Somewhere over the year 2024, we started a project to migrate away from that Windows 10 environment, moving into Windows 11, using Intune for device management, using Entra ID, and this is mainly being done by our external managed service provider. We have an external party that manages the workplace for us, and part of this process of moving away from Windows 10 and moving into Windows 11, and we've seen the show of hands this morning of people still using Windows 10. We're not there yet. We're around 80% there, but we're not there fully. And part of that project was about reducing the vendor lock-in we have with our current managed service provider. We have an end-user service department within the organization that manages applications, end-user stuff like physical hardware and stuff like that. But the whole management of the workplace environment is done by the MSP, and by moving into Windows 11 and Intune management, we see less need for that external knowledge and move that into our own organization. So during the project of migrating away from Windows 10, moving into Windows 11, we've seen some scenarios pop up where Windows 365 was mentioned. And the first thing where we ran into this is for the external hires within the organization. We have a lot of external hires, not on payroll, using their own device, bring your own device scenarios. And there's not really management on that. You can take your bring your own device, set up your OneDrive sync, read your mailbox, and we have no insights in what's going on with the data on that local endpoint. So I had a talk with our security department. They were not happy about that, to say the least. So we had some leverage to move into, well, managing those end-user devices. Well, I'm external, I bring my own device, and I don't want my partner, my employer, to manage my personal device. So we decided, well, we need to offer something to arrange that, to have more control, and that's where Windows 365 or Cloud PCs popped up, because we can just give them their own Transavia managed device, only running from a Microsoft data center. So once we started to figure out that, and we had some talks with Microsoft, with the product team in Amsterdam, that gave a lot of support in moving towards that solution, trialing it. A few other use cases popped up in the Windows 365 sphere. For example, we have a lot of shared desktop users. Users that do need a full-blown Windows PC. They can't just manage using only an iPad, but they're all shared scenarios. So this is a picture somewhere in our technical department, our maintenance plant, where we do actual maintenance on, well, engines, for example. They use a Windows 10 or Windows 11 device to do their work. All the technical drawings are there. The entire paperwork for the maintenance schedule is there. They can't just manage using an iPad, but they don't use that device 8 hours a day. They do their thing within the aircraft, get back to the office, write up the paperwork, and they move on to the next aircraft. And speed is important there. An aircraft on the ground costs about 3 million euros a day when it's not flying. So there's a lot of pressure in getting those aircrafts back up in the air again if there's something wrong. It's a very high pressure environment. Up until now, they use shared devices, a Windows 10 PC, where they just sign in with a named account. If we're lucky, that's not always the case, and that has some disadvantages when moving to an Intune managed scenario. First of all, the TPM chip in shared devices, it runs out at 5, 10 different accounts. So you can't do any secure or really strong authentication on the device anymore. You have to take that externally into a FIDO key or something like that. And then you still have the profiles on the device you need to manage. If you have 50 people signing into the same device, your disk runs full and you have a problem again. So this is where we looked at deploying the Cloud PCs also. Give them a little device, sign into the Cloud PC, it's their own personal device, it's still their own personal Windows 10, Windows 11 device, only it's running in that Azure data center again. And then I got a call from one of the product owners in the organization and said, well, we have another thing. If you walk into an airport and you're flying with, well, Transavia, you have to check in. We have some baggage handlers that take your bags out of the aircraft and make sure it's on the right conveyor belt when you walk out. Those are not Transavia employees. They are external parties, but they need to access our Transavia data. Passenger information, flight information, stuff like that. And well, to add a bit to that, those are people working across those 120 destinations across Europe. So we don't have any insights in what's going on there. Currently, you have a Citrix environment where we offer those applications to those people. And there were some security concerns with that. Not just because it's Citrix, but also the way people access those portals. There was some certificate-based authentication. There was no real multi-factor authentication. We had to arrange something for that. So in our talks with Microsoft about deploying those Cloud PCs, we came up with a solution to solve that problem as well. If we look at Windows 365, I don't know how many of you are actually using Windows 365 at the moment? Quite a few, okay. 3 main licensing components in Windows 365. The first is Windows 365 Enterprise. You get your own personal 24/7 available Cloud PC running from a Microsoft data center. Each employee needs a license. If they have a license, the PC gets provisioned and they can use it. Personalized, fully Windows. And the good thing for us, like I said, we wanted to move away from that vendor login. It's fully deployed and managed through Microsoft Intune. So I've done a lot of stuff with Intune. The internal organization within Transavia needs to be trained, and we only need to train them once. We need to tell them how to use Microsoft Intune, and then they know how to manage those Cloud PCs as well. The second one is the frontline version. That frontline version of the Cloud PC is designed for people that need access, need their own Cloud PC, but don't need it 24/7. It's mainly designed for people working in shifts, like the technical department you've seen, where people sign in every now and then to do their stuff. It's still a dedicated Cloud PC. It's your own personal Cloud PC running in a data center, but you can grant up to 3 employees access using one single license. Because 3 employees together each an 8-hour shift fills a 24-hour day. So it's designed for people working in shifts like our technical department that works around the clock 24/7. It's still that personal experience. So you do get your own personal Cloud PC just like you would have your own personal device. I once had it explained to me, well, we have this virtual machine running in an Azure data center, and if someone signs in with that frontline license, we just take a VHDX file, the hard drive connected to the Cloud PC. When he logs off, we disconnect the hard drive, store it somewhere, and the next person signing in gets its drive connected. So it's still your own personal experience, only you share the resources with 3 people. And then later on, Microsoft released the frontline shared licensing model. That's even better. That's basically a Cloud PC for specific tasks. Very short access to your Cloud PC to do something. Checking in people at the gate. The good part about the frontline shared licensing is that you only need a license for each individual Cloud PC you want to spin up. Each concurrent session requires a license. If you have 500 people across 200 different airports using a Cloud PC, but only 10 of them sign in simultaneously, because not each flight departs at the same time, you only need 10 licenses. It's shared, it's non-personal, and it's non-persistent-ish. They don't destroy and redeploy the machine every time someone logs off, but all the personal data is removed. So your profile gets nuked, and when the next one signs in, he gets his own personal profile. Still, for all those 3 across the board, deployed and managed through Intune. So coming back at that first scenario, those bring your own device users, those not on payroll users, we decided to move towards the Cloud PC for that. If you're an external hire and you want to bring your own device, that's okay. Here's your Cloud PC, here are your instructions to sign in. It's your own personal device, just like you would get if you were on the payroll with Transavia in the form of a physical laptop, only you won't get the physical laptop. It's running in a data center somewhere. That has a few advantages, mainly in handling. We calculated the business case. We could handle each external hire their own Transavia device, so we would be able to manage it. Those are normally pretty short-term contracts, like around a year. So you would need to reprovision the device, hand it over to the next user. There are some handling costs in that. You need to purchase each device upfront, and maybe not use some of them for a while because you don't hire as much people. So the Cloud PC has a better business case on the cost compared to physical devices. Also, if you look at the Dutch tax regulations, there's a bit of a thing going on where the Dutch government wants to minimize the number of people who are self-employed. So they look at specific assignments and say, well, if you're doing this and you're doing this for 3 years and you're part of the team in the organization and you use the tools they supply, their device, then you're not self-employed. You haven't been self-employed over the past 3 years. You should have just been on the payroll. And we want you to pay back the taxes over the past 3 years because, well, you didn't do that, and you should because you were on the payroll. So this way, we can grant people access to their own personal device without handing them their physical device and saying, well, here is our tool. Here's the hammer you would use as a mechanic, only it's a laptop because you're an IT guy, and still comply with the tax regulations. For the frontline, well, you saw the frontline licensing option. So for our technical department that works 24/7, we want them to have their own personal persistent desktop, but they work in shifts, so they don't need full-time access. They share that access across the day. So up to 3 users per license. If you look at the SKUs, the sizing of those Cloud PCs, they're the same as for the personal devices. So you have various SKUs, starting at, I believe, 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, moving up into GPU-backed machines that you can use to run AutoCAD, for example. For most shared desktop scenarios in our organization, we did the math. This was the most cost-effective solution. Of course, you have to think about, well, how are you managing access to those devices? They need the endpoint to reach that Cloud PC. We'll talk about that a bit later. But this is what we went for those departments. And of course, I take the technical department as an example, but I think in every organization you have these kind of users. Yeah, the desk at the entrance, the receptionist. Those are working in shifts. Some are working 2 days a week, others are working 3 days a week. Each day there's someone else behind the desk. We can give them their own personal environment and still share that license because they're not working at the same time. Another department in the organization, and that's more of a high demanding environment, is our OCC, or Operations Control Center. Everything that goes on with Transavia flights from, I believe, 24 or 48 hours from the start of the flight until 24 hours after the flight landed is managed by our OCC. If there's something with the crew, the pilot calls in sick. If there's something with the aircraft, it can take off because there's a technical issue and we need to reschedule or get another aircraft, or we need to get a different crew. If there's something during the flight, when I was visiting the OCC and they have real-time communication with the aircraft at least above Dutch ground, an aircraft planned to land at Rotterdam Airport. There was an issue with, I believe, one of the flaps on the wing, so they needed to make a high-speed landing. They couldn't do that in Rotterdam because the tarmac is too short. They need to divert to Amsterdam. They have a problem because they have an aircraft in the wrong location for the next flight. They have a crew in the wrong location for the next flight. They have baggage that's in Amsterdam that should have been in Rotterdam. They have guests, passengers at the wrong location that needs to be relocated. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they all manage that through the OCC. That's a 24/7 environment as well, and it's, as we say in Dutch, holle of stilstaan. They're either really busy or they're not doing anything at all because everything goes well. So that's a very high demanding organization as well. They currently use shared desktops. Just last week I got a call, well, we have one shared desktop that's running out of disk space because we use it for our shift leaders. We have about 10 of them. They are very huge profiles. Disk running out. So we're moving towards the Cloud PC for that group as well. Of course, there's some stuff you need to think about. In a high demanding organization like that, if you're going towards the use of Cloud PCs, you need to have a look at the internet connection. Because if your internet connection goes down, you can't use your Cloud PC. So there is some switch in budget as well from, well, we need to focus on the high availability of the machines that are actually in the office to, well, we need to make sure that the Cloud PC can be reached. The main advantage of using Cloud PCs in that scenario is that you can reach it from anywhere you want. If your internet connection goes down, you take your mobile phone, you start up your hotspot, connect to that, and you're connected to the Cloud PC as well. So there's a shift in momentum there. And then we have that final group I talked about, those suppliers And once that frontline shared license came out, we decided to move with it. So each supplier gets an account that can sign into a Cloud PC. We license that based on the concurrent sessions, and they can do their stuff from there. They need access to mainly just one application, but they need to be connected to our network to access data within that application, because all the passenger data is there. So we need to supply that for them. So getting started, deploying Cloud PCs, it's fairly easy. I see a few of you already did that. It's all managed through Intune. So the main part of Cloud PCs is a provisioning policy. And it's done through the Intune portal. I can take you there. In the Intune portal, devices, we move to Windows 365. Microsoft uses both the Windows 365 name as the Cloud PC name. Cloud PC is the product. Windows 365 is the service that allows you to use that product. Kinda. So from here you can create a provisioning policy, and the provisioning policy will allow you to set up, okay, how are we using this Cloud PC? So in this case I have a personal provisioning policy, and it's pretty straightforward. You select, well, will it be a full desktop, or will it be a shared environment? You select the base image you want to use. There are a lot of images already available through the portal. In this case, I moved to 25H2 already. This is our test setup. Language region, you can apply device name template if you want to. HV is the call sign for Transavia, so we use HV as a prefix there. Cloud PC, random number. And we're using the auto patch functionality within Intune to automatically patch those devices when feature updates, quality updates come out. So they're just in one of those auto patch rings, and you can manage it through there, through Intune, like you should. Once you've done that and you've set up the provisioning policy, you simply assign a license to a user. That's it. We use group-based licensing, so if I place someone in the right Entra group, the right Cloud PCs queue gets provisioned for that end user. And you can see it through the All Cloud PCs tab. We have various Cloud PCs here. I can search for my own Cloud PC. I have a few. And I can click through, see all the information on this specific device. Like I said, it's an Intune managed device. It's Windows 10, Windows 11, running in a Microsoft data center. You manage it just like you would manage your laptop or your desktop. That also means that all the investments we did in moving to Intune, all the app packaging we did to make sure we have the applications available in Intune for our physical Windows 11 devices, we can reuse that for those Cloud PCs, because it's the same Intune managed device. All the policies you have, all the applications you have, you can apply that to a Cloud PC the same way you would as you would to a physical device. Reusing that policies, there is something you might need to look at. We had a few baseline policies that we already had in place when we started the Windows 10 to Windows 11 migration. When we started using Intune, we applied that same baseline security policies, for example, to our Cloud PCs. Once I did that, I could sign into my Cloud PC when it was provisioned, and then about 10 or 15 minutes later, I would lose all access to my Cloud PC. One of the baseline security policies that's readily available in Intune says, well, we should deny RDP sign-in to our devices.
Makes it very secure.
It's very secure, yeah. And it's good to see that those policies are applied approximately 10 to 15 minutes after sign-in. So you sign into your Cloud PC, hey, it works, and 15 minutes later it's gone. Doesn't play very well with Cloud PC. So sometimes you have to mix and match existing policies and create a specific policies with some exemptions for Cloud PCs, just to keep that under control. Same goes for BitLocker, for example. If you have a compliance policy that you say, well, BitLocker should be on, Cloud PCs are not BitLocker protected because they run in an Azure data center. Storage is protected at rest in the data center already, so you can't enable BitLocker on your Cloud PC, so you should uncheck that in your compliance policy. So getting started, we started with that bring your own device scenario with those full personal cloud PCs, run a proof of concept, or a pilot as we call it within an airline, and mainly validate the sizing. So we had some talks with Microsoft, and they said, well, just start off with that 2 CPU, 8 gigs of RAM version. For basic office work, that should be fine. It's not. Our main baseline right now is 4 CPU, 16 gigs of RAM. For most office workers, that's perfect. I had a talk with my area lead, who mainly signs off on the costs. Gave him one of those cloud PCs, said, well, use it. And he said, it sucks, it's not fast enough. I can't give this to my end users. Then we upgraded him to the 4 CPU version. Perfect. If you did an investment already in the 2 CPU 8 gigs version or another version and you want to step up, there's a step up queue. Contact your Microsoft representative for that, where you can use the SKU you already bought, for example, for a year, and have it updated to a higher version and just pay the difference between those two, instead of buying completely new licenses for the higher version. And once we started off with that bring your own device scenario, we moved to the shared device scenarios. Technical department, OCC. Authentication is an important part there, and we'll look at why in the next few slides. But once you've started with one scenario, that shared device scenario, the frontline worker scenario, is pretty straightforward, because they're just the same devices, only you share the license between 3 people. And after that, we moved on to those suppliers, so that frontline shared stuff. That's a bit different because those are non-persistent virtual machines. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Good question. So what actually are you doing on the endpoint side? You mentioned the Cloud PC.
Yeah.
What are you replacing the device with a thin client, or does that come in?
I'll show you, yeah.
You're going to revisit any of the use cases now the cloud apps, or once cloud apps become available?
Yeah, we probably will. So I've showed you the provisioning policies, and I'll get back to your question in a bit. One of the things that makes the frontline shared scenario works really nice in my experience is the device preparation part. So if you have a personal cloud PC, the first time you sign in, you go through the same ESP, the enrollment status page you would once you do autopilot on a physical device. So it's installing the apps and it's pushing certificates and Wi-Fi connections and whatever. For that shared scenario, you want that to be as quick as possible. Those applications that should already be there once someone signs in. The device preparation part of autopilot now works with the frontline shared scenario, where you can say, well, if you spin up this device, I want you to install these applications, have these policies already available, do these PowerShell scripts, so that once the first user signs into the shared device, everything is already there. And the device preparation comes from the Intune portal as well. So on the devices tab, the enrollment part, if I scroll down, I have device preparation policies. I have a device preparation policy for my ground handlers, as we call them. And it basically does a few things. So it assigns those devices, once they're being provisioned, to a specific group. And you can use that group for targeting applications or policies. I don't really like targeting applications or policies to a group. I like to use the filtering option in Intune, because it's way faster. But of course, if you use the device naming template in Intune or in Windows 365, you can create a filter based on the device name or even the SKU or the provisioning policy you're using. So you can use the filters as well. And I can specify which apps I would need to have in place for those devices to be available. So in this case, I use our VPN client because those devices run in a Microsoft data center. They use the usual internet breakout, and I need them to connect back into our main network. I can do two things. I can use my VPN client, or I can have those cloud PCs in a VNet in Azure and use our express route connection to do the same. Our first pilot was using this VPN client because our network and security operations wanted that, because they have some insights in the actual traffic and can do user-based tagging for specific traffic. We're now moving that into Azure VNets, because once you sign in, it takes some time for the VPN client to start up, to authenticate, to set up the connection. And if you start the application before the VPN connection is there, you don't have any working app. So we're moving that into the Azure VNets. And I want to run some scripts, mainly for the single sign-on in our network client. I didn't package that within the VPN application, because we have some scenarios where we don't want to use that. So I run a PowerShell script afterwards to set up single sign-on and seamless authentication for that. So you put this in your preparation policy, and if you provision the devices, the preparation policy takes care of making sure every setting is in place. So that's the next question. What about the endpoints? We went with the Windows 365 link. Once we started the first pilot, the device became available in the Netherlands. I'm not really sure if it's already available in the UK. Can you order it already? Yeah, we were not the first one to get it. Germany did, and that's right across the border, so that works. Replacing our shared devices. Those devices needed to be replaced anyway, and this purpose-built, managed to Intune, you can just walk up and use it. Screen support, dual 4K, that's enough for most scenarios. We have some setups using 32-inch screens. This is an actual photograph of the Transavia office. With a link device, dual screen, 32-inch, that's enough for most users. The main advantage for the link device, in my opinion, is that it's also managed through Intune. You can just plug it in and you're good to go. So for our technical department, for the OCC, we're still thinking about that. I'll get back to that in a bit. But I think we're going to deploy around 100, 150 of those link devices throughout the company. Authentication is a thing. If you do sign in on a link device, you first sign in on the link device, and then that sign-in is being brought into the underlying Cloud PC that will automatically sign you in with your Entra account. That requires strong authentication. Just a username and a password is not enough. You need multi-factor authentication, and the sign-in to the underlying Cloud PC can't display the MFA request or the approval you would normally do. You can't dial in the number in the screen because it's not designed that way. So you need some strong authentication, preferably passwordless, to have a true single sign-on experience. We decided to go with FIDO key-based authentication in a smart card. So I place my smart card on the card reader. It will ask for my PIN code that's connected to my smart card, and that signs me into my Cloud PC. In this example, I believe I sign into my own personal account. I have 2 Cloud PCs assigned to me, one personal and one frontline for testing purposes. So I just select the right one. If you have only one Cloud PC assigned, you'll automatically be signed into your Cloud PC and have your desktop experience from there. We went with the smart card authentication for a reason. We already carry those smart cards to enter the buildings. We're in the process of replacing those smart cards with new smart cards that are FIDO2 compatible. That was already in the planning. So we can just use our card we use to enter the office to access our personal Cloud PC, combined with the passcode, the PIN code, of course. I see one slide disappeared. One of the other things we're doing is our technical department. They use iPads for stuff they do around the aircraft. If they do a walk around and they need to make some notes. We're having some walk-up zones right now in the TD where they can just plug their iPad. If you have a Gen 10 or later, they have a USB-C connection instead of the Lightning connector. You can just plug it into your docking station and use your Cloud PC from there. You start up your Cloud PC on your iPad. You have it full screen on your screen. You have the keyboard, you have the mouse. It really works as a point of touch scenario. Just walk up, plug in your iPad, and use it from there. For our suppliers that use that frontline shared scenario, it's up to the supplier what they use. When we first started the pilot, there was a requirement to have all those suppliers use a Transavia account. They needed to be in our Entra ID to sign into the Cloud PC. Luckily, we now have guest access into Cloud PCs. We're already piloting that within our Cloud PC deployment. So a supplier signs in using their own Entra account. I mean, there are a few big suppliers that handle multiple airports and that handle multiple airlines on that airport. So they sign in with their Entra account from their own organization, and they get the Cloud PC through the Transavia deployment. That works really well, mainly because we don't have to manage all those accounts. We just add them as a guest user, and if they leave their own organization, their account is disabled, so they don't have access to our organization anymore. That really limits the strain we have on our IAM department for managing all those accounts.
How does it work with licensing? Do they have to be primary licensing on their tenant?
We license them. So they get a Cloud PC license on their guest account, and to use that Cloud PC, of course, they need an Entra license and an Intune management license. So they get I believe it's an Intune F3 license, or an M365 F3 license that gives them Entra ID P1 or P2, that gives them the Intune license, and they get the Cloud PC license in our environment.
Inherit from, so I get it for a Cloud PC, but the other one doesn't inherit from the own tenant.
No, they need to be licensed in our tenant, yeah. And basically what we do, we have some access packages within Entra ID that we can use to automatically grant the right licenses to specific guest accounts. So what did we learn? Doing all this, authentication is important. I think one of the most important parts, if you use your own personal Cloud PC and you bring your own device, that's fine. You sign in once, you get the MFA prompt, you're connected, and you can use it from there. If you use those shared devices scenarios, you need to look into strong authentication. Just MFA is not enough. Use FIDO keys, either on a smart card or on a YubiKey. Basically to give that true single sign-on experience into your Cloud PC. For Teams, the media redirection in Cloud PC is perfect if you use a Windows-based guest device. So if I use media redirection on my Windows-based device, I get the big gallery view in Teams, I get good audio redirection. On Mac, I believe somewhere by the end of the year, the media redirection in Mac should be fixed as well, where you can get the larger gallery and you can actually use your AirPods without audio being distorted. Sizing, so the two CPUs, 8 gigs, didn't work for us. We went with 416. If you have higher requirements, it's best to calculate the business case again. We have some developers that have really high requirements for their developing machine. I saw a session here today. I've got 99 problems and developers are each effing one of them. I agree. We have some cases where we do give developers their own personal device just because the business case flips when you go into the highest queues. Reuse as much policies as you can. If you have invested into moving your workload into Intune and managing your devices to Intune, you can reuse 95% of what you've done there because it's still an Intune managed device. You can use the applications you've already packaged. We have some internal users still using Citrix for specific applications that were not available locally. Up until now, we're now investing into repackaging those apps into Intune so we can either deliver them to their personal device or to a Cloud PC that they might need. And network connectivity, of course. We started out, like I said, with the VPN client for the supplier portal PCs. That worked out so we're moving to the Azure VNet integration for that. For our personal Cloud PCs, we're still on the VPN client because we see them as a Windows 10 and Windows 11 device that people can use from anywhere, any place. All our on-payroll users have a Windows device with that VPN client, so the external hires get the same, only not the physical device, but the Cloud PC. If you look at repurposing old hardware, I just yesterday had a talk with our OCC department where we were demoing that Link device with a 2-screen 4K setup. They currently use really large setups. They have 4 screens, one of them in portrait mode because they need to have a lot of different stuff going on at the same time. I'm still not sure if that Link device will work for them. just because of the limit of 2 screens. I showed them, well, you have twice 4K resolution. The vertical resolution you have on one half of the screen is even more than you currently have in the portrait mode on your 27-inch Full HD screen. I'm not sure if I will get them to use those link devices. Then we're looking into Windows 365 boot, where we can just take their current hardware and have them boot into the Cloud PC. And you don't have that limitation on peripherals. So that's, if they don't go one way, we'll move them the other way. One of the advantages of Windows 365 boot is that you can have a fallback scenario now. So if your Cloud PC is not available, for what reason it might be, it will just use a local version of Windows on that Windows 11 PC for the time being to make sure your operation can continue. And for our OCC department, it's a must-have to be operational 24/7. So that tells our story. One remark on the guest access to the Cloud PC. We're currently piloting that. It's not GA yet. It's in a public preview. My domain architect wouldn't let me use it until it's generally available. We're waiting on that general availability to become available before we roll it out to production. I have been told that should be somewhere by the end of this year. And they made the calendar date, the planned date for the public preview, so I expect them to make the planned date for the GA as well. So that sort of concludes this flight through our Cloud PC. Any questions?
What do you do about people logging in from different time zones? How do you host the Cloud PC in different zones?
No, our Cloud PCs are hosted in Europe, mainly because we have some regulations that require our data to be in Europe. But you can do time zone redirection. So it takes a time zone from the client you're signing in from and displays that into the Cloud PC.
No, it's more about the name. Someone's logging in from a time zone that is different from where it's hosted. How do you do that?
Yeah, no, Microsoft handles that pretty well with the RDP multi-path shortcut enhancements. You get connected to a front door. I don't know if it's exactly a front door, but if it's the same technique they're using, but you get connected to a front door somewhere near you, and they handle the rest of the traffic to their own backend. Yeah, and you can get some pretty good statistics from the Intune portal as well on the Cloud PCs on connection times, latencies, stuff like that. So you get some pretty good insights.
One question. Have you found any applications that are not supported, perhaps on Cloud PC? I know with AVD there are some apps that vendors don't support them on AVD. I haven't got experience with Cloud PC, but they're virtual machines in a sense. So have you come across
No,
that?
not yet. We're not fully there yet, application-wise, because we're still moving our kind of Citrix applications towards Intune packaging, so to say. So we might run into something, but up until now, the main difference between AVD and Cloud PC is that most people use AVD in a pooled environment, so they have multiple users on the same session host, and Cloud PC is one-on-one. That solves a lot of headache there.
And one more question. If you're having to redirect USB connectivity, I guess, and again, I come from university, we have a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably more to the AVD, and how does Cloud PC handle that?
Oh, pretty well. Of course, there are the peripherals you use for Teams, so webcams, audio devices. That's pretty seamlessly. By default, in new provisioning policies, you can't do any cut, copy, and paste between your session host and your local device anymore, unless you explicitly allow it. And we've done some tests with both the FIDO card readers for authentication. So you can only use it to sign into the Cloud PC. But if you're into the Cloud PC and you run the I want to enroll a new FIDO 2 device, that works as well. We have some barcode scanners in our warehouse for supplies checking and stuff like that. I haven't seen anything yet that was not working. But
What about any Arduino board or any other development board that you need to do? So if you're writing a robot or whatever, you've got to be able to do that. Or
I think, for us, the Cloud PC deployment is mainly for that edge case scenarios, bring your own device, frontline workers. I think most people using those solutions would have a physical device. So we're a bit of a mixed environment in that sense. I think we're about on time. If you want to know more, I'll be here all day. Come have a chat. I'm happy. Here's my LinkedIn. And if you scan the QR code, you can leave an evaluation on Sessionize, I think. I'm always happy to see reviews of sessions and see how we can improve. So thanks for being here, and have a good day.